All right, so you want to dive deeper into what's driving Bitcoin's price swings, right?
Absolutely.
It's more than just looking at Bitcoin in isolation.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the interplay between things like China's economic maneuvering, the Fed's interest rate decisions.
Right.
It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, these are all interconnected, right?
Exactly. And when you have major players like Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, making waves, people listen.
They do.
He manages trillions of dollars in assets.
Right.
And he recently came out and said that market expectations for Fed interest rate cuts are, quote, crazy.
That got people's attention.
Yeah, it's not every day you hear someone with that level of influence express that kind of concern. And it kind of highlights this gap between what the market expects and what might actually happen.
It does. And, when you talk about market expectations and interest rate cuts, you have to consider what that means for risk-on assets like Bitcoin.
Okay, break that down for me a little.
So when interest rates are cut, borrowing becomes cheaper, right?
Right.
So businesses might be more likely to invest in growth opportunities,
Yeah.
and investors, they often start looking at assets that are considered higher risk, potentially higher reward.
And that's where Bitcoin comes in.
Exactly.
So lower rates could potentially be good news for Bitcoin, but then you have Fink's warning.
Right, and that adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it?
It does. Because what does BlackRock see that makes them hesitant about aggressive rate cuts? How does that change how we view the future of Bitcoin?
That's the million-dollar question right there.
It is.
Because it suggests that they may be anticipating other economic factors that we might not be seeing, factors that would make those rapid-fire rate cuts unwise.
Mm.
And this is why understanding these seemingly small positions, these nuanced statements,
Yeah.
they're actually really important because they give us clues about how the big players are interpreting the market.
It's like we're trying to read the tea leaves here, right?
Yeah.
We've got Fink throwing out this warning about interest rates. But let's move on to another big player. Let's talk about China.
Yeah.
Analysts are saying some pretty interesting things, using words like fireworks, a tsunami of liquidity coming from China.
Right. And analysts don't just throw those terms around lightly.
No.
No.
So for those of us who don't spend every day thinking about global economics, what are they actually getting at?
Essentially, they're predicting that China is going to pump a ton of money into their economy.
Stimulus measures.
Exactly. Their economy has been slowing down, so they're expected to take steps to boost it. Things like increasing infrastructure spending, making it easier for businesses to borrow money,
I see.
all to get more money flowing. Hence the tsunami analogy.
Right, more liquidity. But we're talking about Bitcoin, so how are these things connected?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
You have to remember that everything's interconnected. When a powerhouse like China injects that much cash into its system, it doesn't just stay put. It can spill over into the global market, influencing everything, including how people invest their money. And certain assets, like Bitcoin, are often seen as benefiting from this kind of situation.
So more money sloshing around globally could mean upward pressure on Bitcoin's price.
Potentially, yeah.
Interesting. It reminds me of a quote from those analysts I mentioned, David Brickell and Chris Mill. They said, quote, "They say don't fight the Fed. Also, don't fight China. Definitely don't fight the Fed and China together."
I like that quote.
It's kitschy.
It is, and it speaks to the potential power when these forces align, right? If China goes big on stimulus and the Fed does ease up on interest rates like the market expects,
Despite Fink's concerns.
right, despite Fink's concerns, well, that combined force could be very significant for Bitcoin.
Okay, so now things are getting really interesting. We've got potential easing from the Fed, potentially massive stimulus from China. What happens if both of those things occur? How does somebody listening to this make sense of it all?
That's a great question because it's not just about understanding the upside. It's also about
Yeah.
managing the downside, right?
Yep.
Understanding the risks involved.
Yeah, exactly. So we're talking about some pretty...
It really is. And that's why, if you want to make informed decisions in this space, whether it's about Bitcoin or any other investment, you have to stay curious. You have to keep learning.
Ask questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because the more you understand the bigger picture, the forces at play,
Right.
the better equipped you'll be to navigate the ups and downs of these markets. And who knows, you might even find it fun.
It's definitely been an interesting conversation.
It has. It's been great talking to you.
To you as well. And for everyone listening, keep exploring, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.